Let's see how you do under pressure. Oh, yeah. I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm shy. Get to the paper, boy. Extra, extra. Fuck with me, you know that I got it.
Yo, what's happening, everyone, and welcome back to Life by the Horns, where we boldly tackle life's terrain. So got a great podcast session with you guys today. Today, we're going to be discussing how comfort kills within an organization, within relationships. Comfort is really, I think, the evil to allowing us to grow. So that being said, Dustin, I want to open the floor to you, man, because I know that this has been something that's kind of been on your mind and you want to chat about, bro. So I want to let you take the floor.
Yeah, thanks, man. And what is up, everybody? Yeah, man, I think, I guess let me get closer to the mic. I was starting with, I know that comfort is extremely detrimental. And it's often something that a lot of us look for in so many of the things that we do. And although it like provides maybe a sense or a moment of like pause and the ability to take a deep breath, it's not something that is good for an individual who's trying to really do something inside of their life. And I remember, I mean, God, it's been since like the 90s, but I remember a long, long time ago, man, sorry, all you Cowboys fans, but a long, long time ago, the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. And Emmitt Smith does this commercial where he's like, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, we won. Now it's time to take a break. And he's laying on a bench, and I think he's pushing like 225, and says, now we rest. And he sits there for like a second, and then he lifts the bar and starts doing reps. And like that moment was always just super telling to me that like true champions and people who are really trying to do something in life, like you can rest for a moment and get comfortable for a moment. But, much like in a moving river or in life or in anything, man, people have this like illusion or this thought that if they're just not doing something productive or proactive, that they're just going to stay in the same place. And it's just not real. I mean, even in like the human body, like you're either being catabolic or anabolic. That is it. There is no moment in which the body is just staying the same. It may feel like that, because, what we see on the surface level, but it's just, down like the physiological human being, like you're never just baseline staying the same. You're either growing or you're getting torn down. And I don't know, man. I mean, I saw it in our own organization. I've seen it in our own organizations before. You get super pumped about a goal that you set, and then you finally reach the goal, and then you take your foot off the gas with what got you there. And then all of a sudden you're in scramble mode, trying to maintain, and then you start going backwards, and it's just so much effort to get back. So I don't know, just, and we'll definitely dig deep into all this stuff. But man, I even had a rant this morning on the way into the gym. Like it's like 5 a.m. and I'm like, man, fuck this, all these comfortable motherfuckers. and not to say that I haven't been super comfortable in many areas of my life too, but I know, and at least speaking for myself, that it's just never an area or a place in life or a season that I want to hang out too long, because I end up going way backwards. I don't know. What do you think, man?
Yeah, dude. I mean, comfort is, like I said, it's the root of evil, man, because as soon as you get comfortable, you're like, what else is there to do? And it, I think, really prevents you from growing. Dude, one of my favorite interviews was, remember when Kobe Bryant was in the finals and they were up like 2-0 or something like that? And he just had like this bold like look on his face. And a reporter asked him like, hey, like, Kobe, aren't you happy? You guys are up 2-1 in the finals. And he goes, what's there to be happy about? Job's not finished. Job finished. And that always stuck with me. I was like, this guy's a killer. And that is the killer mentality. Because, if you're not winning, you're learning. And, I think that comfort aspect of life, whether it's in relationships or in work. It's like, if you're comfortable, then what is your motivation and your drive to succeed? You have no motivation, no drive at that point if you're just comfortable.
And most people don't. I mean,
Why
the
do you think
reality
that
is
is?
because they're living in this illusion that everything's okay. Because they wake up and they lie to themselves every single day that they're happy and they love the life that they have around them. And the reality is they're not, or at least they are when nothing's going wrong or when they're not challenged. But the second you're comfortable in your finances and you're like, oh yeah, we're good, and your kid goes and breaks his arm, and then you've got a $30,000 hospital bill because you don't have insurance or whatever it may be, like, you're not comfortable all of a sudden. Or, and again, I alluded to this morning in a short rant that I had, but, so many people get comfortable in their relationships and in their partnerships. They just get lazy. And then the only time they get pissed off is when things aren't going their way. And then all of a sudden they feel like, or they find out they've been lied to, cheated to, or stolen from. And then they start trying to figure that out. It's like, well, it's because you got lazy. It's because you got comfortable. You put everything on autopilot, and you stopped having real conversations. And the same thing happens in fitness, man. I mean, I can't tell you the seasons of fitness that I've been through and the roller coasters. And finally I was just like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with it. I'm so sick and tired of saying stupid shit like, oh man, I want to be, 225 and have a six pack. And then you finally get there and you're like, oh God, the work is done. And then it's just pizza and cheesecakes and all the bullshit that got you to the place that you weren't happy with. So yeah, I don't know, man, but it's just this, we have these like two sides to us. One that, is, at least for me, really strong and aggressive and wants to continue to do things and move the goalpost and continue to push to see what the next boundary is, and next reward and next goal. And then everybody has that other side, which is like, you're good, man. Like, great job. And you start to give yourself this like artificial gratification and thanks and praise. Or you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, I'm really tired. And then you're sitting there and you got, part of you goes, hey, it's okay. You deserve to fucking sleep for another hour or two. You've been killing it. And then the other part of you that's like, no, get up. It's time to go. We've got work to be done. And I think, that's probably the inner battle that everybody faces every single day. And when you're listening to two different dynamics inside of the same being, which is wild, but two different dynamics over and over again, naturally one of those is going to get stronger. And when you consistently tell yourself over and over again that, hey, like, we're good. Dad bods are in. Making $50,000 a year is okay. Going on a date night once a year on Valentine's Day with my wife is acceptable. That's all she wants. You're fucking lying to yourself. And I just think for so many people, it's easier to follow the masses because they've got weak social circles and weak goals than it is to try to stand out and be different. Because we live in a society where when you try to stand out and be different, people laugh at you and they point fingers and they say, you can't do it. And I think people are just so weak internally because they've been constantly stacking a lack of wins in their life that the second somebody laughs and points a finger, they're like, yeah, you're probably right. And they retreat instead of saying, no, I can do a damn thing.
So that being said, like, for those who, might be able to be honest with themselves and look themselves in the mirror and say, look, I have been comfortable. I have been in a position where I've just felt comfortable and haven't really motivated myself. Like, what do you think could be the first step to having people get to a point where they look themselves honestly in the mirror and say, I'm willing to get outside my comfort zone?
I guess it really probably depends on like what area of life, whether it's, finance, relationships, fitness, or whatever it may be. But I don't know. I've always been really introspective in the fact that I'm going to be really honest with myself. And that doesn't always mean that, like, with that honesty, I'm going to change, because it's got to come from me first. But, I think the first thing, at least the biggest catalyst that I had, as of recent, months back, was just, I'm sitting there day drinking, not feeling super awesome, not happy with where certain things were in my life. And as I'm just sitting there, I'm like, man, like, why do you feel this way? Why are you not happy? What is it about your life that you have control over that you could make changes and start doing something about it now? And why do we have to wait? And it was like, well, I'm not happy with my weight. I'm not happy with my energy level. I'm not happy with how my strengths went to shit. I'm not happy with, how I'm not continuing to court my wife and be an amazing husband. I'm not happy with, the time that I spend with my kids because my head is somewhere else. I'm not happy with, where our finances at right now. I'm not, and I start and you start laying all this stuff out there and it can be overwhelming. But I think the easiest thing to do is go, okay, like what is in my control? And what is something I can do on a daily, although I may not like it, to start moving in a positive direction? And even if I don't do these things every single day, if I do most of them, does it create some momentum and going in the right way? And it's as simple as just, if it's fitness, you put one foot in front of the other. It's a stupid thing that I used to say back in the day when, I'd have consults with clients, on the fitness side of things. And, they're way overweight and they're upset. They're having the conversation for a reason. And I would always joke, and I'm like, man, there's never a time that you've ate a double cheeseburger and the next day said like, oh man, I'm so glad I did that. I'm like, quit doing the things that that are not good for you. And then I think you just have to have a harsh reality check internally and go, are the things that I'm saying I want in my life, are those real? Or are these reflections of other people around me? Do I want to be a successful business owner? Do I want to look a certain way? Do I want to be this type of father figure or parent? And if that's really what you want to do, I think you just have to flip a switch internally and say, okay, if that's what I want, then are my actions moving forward going to be in alignment the majority, if not all of the time, with this? And then you just have to ask yourself those questions. When you go to do something that is not in line with that, you have to ask yourself, is this going to get me closer to that goal? And if the answer is yes, do it. If not, are you really serious about your goal? Or are you lying to yourself? And I think that's where it starts, man. It's just having an honest conversation with yourself. And I think writing it down makes a really big difference. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Dude, I agree with everything you're saying 100%. Like one of the things that, I said to Megan the other day, and that is, asking yourself, did I show up my best self for you yesterday or today? And I think if you can just put yourself in a position where you're consciously thinking to yourself, did I do the best that I could have done today? And you do that every day and multiply that over weeks, months, years. Imagine the amount of growing that you would be able to do by just asking yourself that simple question. Like the other day, I got upset. It was something so minute, like so small. Like Megan and I were arguing about I forget what it was specifically. But then after that little tiff, I thought to myself dang, was that reaction, was that the best thing that I could have done to show her that I love her? The answer was no. Then it was, okay, yesterday, is there something that I could have done more to show her that I love her or appreciate her? Could I have sent her another text? Could I have written her a handwritten note? Could I have gotten her flowers? Or, it doesn't even have to be buying her things, but could I have shown up better for her in that day? And the answer was always yes. And I think that if you can honestly look yourself in the mirror and say, could I have shown up for work a little bit better? Could I have could I have done some extra work? Could I have gone to the gym and put in an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Could I have, minimized the amount of rest time that I've taken? Could I have gone out on that walk? Could I have taken the dog out an extra time? And if you can say to yourself every single day, I'm going to just get incrementally better, I think it changes the entire game for you. But like you said, most people, well, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of people, could be most, wake up on a Saturday at, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning and think that's okay. Now, granted, if you work overnight shifts and that's when you have to sleep, I get that. But for those people that stay up late or get drunk or go out and party, it's like, I understand it's cool to have fun, but you waking up at 10 o'clock and then feeling hungover and all those things, did that, like you said, did that night or that event make you say, dang, that was worth it? I feel great today because of that. And if the answer is no, then you know that there's a shift that needs to be made. And I'm guilty of it too, man. Like, there are times where I don't want to do things and I have just stayed comfortable. But I know those times where I've pushed myself and I've asked myself that internal question, have I done enough today? I know just by simply asking myself that question, I feel better because I know what I need to do differently today than I did yesterday.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you would share there, and a lot of like super awesome nuggets, but being able to ask yourself that question at the end of the day. And I think what's crazy to me is just the power of honesty.
Being honest with yourself.
Dude, so many people live in this fucking illusion of excuses and lies to themselves to give them more comfort for the behaviors in which they have. I mean, I laughed, I don't know, a week or so ago, I posted something about being ineffective and something about people's daily schedules. And man, the nerve that struck with some people. And I just kind of laughed. And I'm like, I mean, clearly, like if there's an act of God or something, yeah, that's going to throw a wrench in your daily plans. But, it was just very funny. But most of the people that were very erratic in their response, dude, I've seen their daily routines from afar. They're garbage. They're non-existent. And when most people, like, especially when we were heavy in consulting, when most would say, oh, I'm super busy. I'd say, pull out your schedule, bro. Let's take a look at what busy is. And they're like, and they start backpedaling because now they can't lie. And then you start going through their day to day. It's like, dude, you're not busy.
Dude, that sorry to jump in, but like that comment, I freaking loved it because the thing that I've always understood is that if people are being honest and you ask them a question, they don't need to really fight back and prove their honesty.
100%.
It's the people that lie to themselves that have to defend themselves that are the ones that are like, no, man, like I'm just a busy person and blah, 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 blah. And those are the people that, like you said, get erratic.
Yeah.
So I loved what you shared yesterday. Or the other day, I thought it was great.
Well, and they just lack prioritization in their schedule. You're like, for every one of those people, I mean, yeah, for the amount of folks that spend just countless, I mean, for some people it's a full-time fucking job, but countless hours on their phone. There are people that have screen time well over 8 hours a day, and it's a large majority of the population, full-time job. And it's not because they're using their phone for the power of which it is, which is an amazing resource of information. They're doing this all fucking day to be
Tinder.
Entertained. Well, that's this. But all they're doing is just scrolling, or in your case, swiping. No, I mean, that's all they're doing with that device. Or they're sitting down and they're binge watching Netflix or whatever it may be. And dude, I'll be the first to attest. Like, my wife and I, if we find a show we really like, I mean, we'll definitely spend, some time each week. Normally it's like one episode an evening or every other evening. When we're not gassed from everything that we're working on. But we do have some of that decompressed time. I think it is appropriate to have some time, that is healthy decompression. But no, I mean, the majority of people just can't be honest with themselves. And that's where it starts. That's where you get outside of that comfort bubble, is when you're finally like, man, if I continue to do the same old shit, this is going to be really painful. This is really going to hurt in the long run. But if I make a change now, sure, it's going to not be great in the moment. But in the long run, if it gets me in line with my goals, that's where it's really going to be exciting. I mean, I had this conversation, I don't know, a week or two ago with somebody, and they were discussing, why certain, well, they were struggling in some areas in life, but they were saying that most people in their circle were as well. But other people are just crushing it. What's the difference? I'm like, the difference is these other people that are doing well are making decisions based off of long-term goals and logic. They're honest with themselves. The folks that are struggling the most are making most of their decisions in an emotional state, and they're being dishonest. Oh, I worked really hard this week and really crushed my diet, so I deserve these cheat meals. No, you don't. I worked really hard and, I got a bonus check. I deserve to buy, this expensive pair of high heels or whatever it may be. You can tell yourself whatever you want, but if your goal is to save a bunch of money to buy a house or whatever it may be, again, are you getting yourself closer towards the goal or further? And that doesn't mean that you can't have a reward and stuff here and there. But if it were me, set some milestones. Once I achieve this, then this is my reward. Not haphazard things, because then you're just looking for instant gratification in a moment. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just wild. If people, I just think the world would be such a better place if people could just be a little bit more honest and be a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable. And speaking of milestones and whatnot, we brought this up a couple of times as we've been doing these, but we're a week, and next Friday is the last day of 75 Hard. So, and I remember the first time going through it, and this is going to sound ridiculous to people listening to this, but the first time going through it, when I completed it, the last exercise that I did outside was a 5-mile run. I am not a runner. And the most I'd ever ran in my life was just north of a mile. And it was like 2 weeks prior. So I'm finishing this run, and I've got in the back of my mind a couple of folks that said, I can't do it. Like, it ain't going to happen. I'm not built for it. And the whole time, man, I got shooting pain going on in my diaphragm. I'm like, hey, I'm still going. And so, but as I'm getting through it, I'm getting to the end, and man, I damn near had tears in my eyes, because I'm like, I fucking did it. Like, I did something that was hard. And the reason I was sad was because it was day 75, which I didn't understand at the time should not have been the end of the journey. And I started thinking back of all of the cool stuff, the nights that my wife and I were doing cardio out in freaking thunderstorms, man. I laughed my ass off one time. She was like, hey, can you just jog like 30 yards ahead of me in case one of us gets struck by lightning? At least our kids will still have a parent. And I'm not encouraging anyone to do that, but it was just funny. But I was sad, because I'm like, man, what a fucking cool journey. And I think that's the thing that everybody misses. It's not, the end goals are cool, but if you're really comfortable being uncomfortable, the goals are going to change over time. But it's the journey to get to those goals, which is so great. That's where you get better. That's where you get smarter. That's where you get stronger. That's where you find more fulfillment. It's not the end goal. It's the journey. And I just wish people would understand that the beginning sucks. The first time you go to the gym, you are going to be sore as shit. It is what it is. That first time you decide that you're going to pull additional money out of your paycheck, to save towards this long-term goal that you have, yeah, it's going to hurt a little bit more. The first time, if you're just hyper-focused on all things business, because that's all you're good at, that you go, you know what, I'm really just going to disconnect and be comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable and be a little bit more intimate with my wife, and give her what she's looking for. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for you. But you've got to, if you really want to level up in all these areas, be a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Comfortable being uncomfortable, man. That should be a quote. That should be
an oxymoron.
That should be a sign right above my live, laugh, love.
There you go.
Above my bed.
Oh man, no, people might take that different ways, but
yeah, seriously. But dude, I think that's super important, man. Be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, because yeah, like you said, man, life happens, shit happens. And what do you do in those situations where life gets really uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And it's crazy, because we as human beings find out what we're capable of when we're in such an uncomfortable zone. Like, it brings me back to, when I was 22 years old. Sorry, I just had connection issues. Yeah, this brings me back to when I was 22 years old, man. I was working at a hotel, and uh, rent was due in 1 week. I had $50 in my bank account.
Whew.
$50 in my bank account. Rent was due in a week. I had to come up with $1,200. And I knew that the crazy part was I was paid bi-weekly. Was I going to get paid the Friday before rent was due? No. I had just got my paycheck and I had already spent it on, could have been bills, it could have been stupid shit. I don't know. But I had rent due, $50 in my bank account, and a whole week that I had to get through. What you find as a human being you're capable of when you're in such an uncomfortable place is fucking nothing short of amazing. So how did I do it? Well, I paid the rent and I had some left over, and the way that I was able to do it is I looked at what I could change. And what I could change was working more hours, working more shifts in my job, doing doubles or whatever it might be, because I knew tips were good. I knew that, I could start making more money. And so I took more shifts. Then I looked at, the inventory that I had as a 22-year-old. Might not have been many things, but I looked at, okay, what could I get rid of that doesn't serve me? I sold my Xbox. I sold, a surfboard that I no longer use. I sold things that I didn't need, that were just possessions to me. And also the Xbox, which didn't serve me. It was fun, but again, like, I would waste hours out of my day just playing that thing. And I took double the amount of shifts. And dude, I fucking crushed it that week. I made I think I made 2 times what the rent was going to be, because I hustled, and I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, if I don't make this money, I will be screwed. So it's interesting, because when you're comfortable, you don't work as hard. When you're uncomfortable, you work twice as hard. And I always thought that was just an amazing thing, because again, like, human beings, we're capable of so much. But like you said, we lie to ourselves and stay in that uncomfortable zone for the sake of not having to face any adversity.
Yeah, but I think the biggest difference with what you did, though, and what most will do, is you didn't have anything to fall back on. You're either going to get kicked out of your place and live on the street, or you're going to figure it out. And that's when you had to make a tough decision. And kudos for doing so. But so many people will go, man, I need to lose 50 pounds. Insert cupcake. But that's what they do. Or I really need to get my rent paid. Oh my God. I'll call my uncle. He'll help me out. And they'll get the money from their uncle, and then they go to Starbucks, and they go to Target to get their groceries, and they repeat the exact same patterns that get them in the problem. And it's up until people finally have their back up against a wall and they have no other options that most people are going to be willing to make a change. And that's when they go, okay, now I am so uncomfortable. I have no other option. And for most, that's what it takes. Like, I get it, but it's just nuts, man. And then if people knew at the end of the day, like, the biggest like lie of comfort to me is just this illusion that you're happy. If people actually realized at the end of the day, and again, it's because they're lying to themselves, not being honest, that when they meet the financial goal or goals, when they meet the fitness goals, when they meet the business goals, the partnership goal, like whatever it may be, that's where they're going to find some real happiness in that journey along that way. It's not lying to themselves.
No, man. I can't tell you, like, the amount of elation that I felt going into that Friday, being able to pay rent and still having money left over. Like, I felt like I had achieved something that felt so amazing and so, like, difficult that I didn't think it could be done, but I was able to achieve it anyways.
And you felt good because you did it, though.
Yeah. And nobody helped me.
Correct.
100%. 100%. So I think those of you who are listening to, this podcast, like, I think the thing that we really need to take away is like, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Set yourself some milestones that'll get you right in a place where things are extremely difficult and hard and you are uncomfortable, because the amount of joy that you will feel by overcoming those challenges and obstacles, there's no greater feeling. There's no greater accomplishment.
Yeah. No,
So I appreciate that, man. I think, you've shared a lot of wisdom and insight. And I think the listeners definitely got a lot out of it today. I know I did.
cool, man. I appreciate that. Well, if I can leave anybody with anything to maybe hear this from somebody else in a different manner. Over a year ago, I read the book, The Power of One More by Ed Milet. And it's a really simple read, and it's exactly what the title is. I mean, if you want to get comfortable being uncomfortable, just do one more. Run another mile, save another $1,000. Like read another page or two, but just, continue to elevate, what is the standard or the status quo for yourself. And just by doing one more, or some people say, stacking 1% wins every day or whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be huge monumental stuff that you're doing on a daily, a weekly, or a yearly, but a little bit more. It definitely compounds in interest over time. You're muted, buddy.
Yeah, look, man, I think this was a great way to end the week. It's Friday and we got the weekend coming up, but I think that this kind of serves a purpose for you guys to, look in the mirror and just say, hey, what could I do to elevate myself? Could I do one more? Could I, put myself in uncomfortable situations to just better myself? So try that out this weekend. So love you guys for following in, tuning in. Again, if you could follow, subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to another episode of Life by the Horns. Again, got Dustin and Blake. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And again, appreciate you guys tuning in. All the best.
Yeah, let's see how you do under pressure. Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I get to the paper.